The Chiefs are putting the band back together in the running back room. Jerick McKinnon on his way back. What does that mean for the build-out on the offensive side? And who are the rookies that are set to come in, get started, and make an impact in 2023? We're going to get to that today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. It is officially the 2023 season now that the NFL draft is over, and we're going to talk about the new Kansas City, brought to you by FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, and all of them. Make every moment more over at FanDuel.com/lockedon today. Got to get to it. If you weren't with me at all over the weekend here on Locked On Chiefs or on NFL 33 or on RGR Football, I had a blast. My favorite time of the year, except maybe the Super Bowl. I appreciate you guys being here. I am Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, the home of the Athletic Matrix, a substance that I think goes around the league. It doesn't get the hype that it deserves, but I'm working on that. Athleticism is key to just about every position on this field, unless you're Tommy Townsend. But the Chiefs are ones that know exactly what they want in their athletes. They got a bunch of them in this draft. But the attention turns today on Monday as Brett Veach had his opening presser of the 2023 Let's Get Ready to Run It Back season, talking about a number of things, but it included the running back room. And the big news today is that not only is Jerick McKinnon on his way back, but he should be signed and delivered tomorrow. And I think that's great news for what they want to do in the running back room. And we had speculated there was a possibility of picking up what was a running back in the draft. Certainly one would be available as UDFAs. We have seen a little bit of that. Right now, it is Deneric Prince that is coming in, that's going to be into that room that already contains Isaiah Pacheco, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and now Jerick McKinnon, who will be back. Now, I think this is smart because Jerick is proving every time he steps on the field that age doesn't matter and that he still has the jets to turn it on and get something done for the Kansas City Chiefs. It does come down to that in contribution. And I think with the departure of Mike Burton, not having a fullback, I think you have a couple of backs in Pacheco and now Deneric Prince who have the ability to kind of be the bit more power runners. Then you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who is going to play a role in this offense. A lot of questions about do you trade away CEH? Clearly, the Chiefs do not think so. In fact, there's still discussion about accepting and implementing the fifth-year option on his contract. That gives you a viable back. And I think that's why, at the end of the day, CH is still in town. And it's going to be a committee that I think he's going to be a part of. And that's perfectly fine at this point. I don't see them committing long-term to him. But with Prince, a guy that is not ready to pass block in the NFL. I will say that, but a dude that does have the explosiveness. He does run with speed and can attack downfield, but he runs with power as well. He's got a bit of an upright style. I didn't have him as a draftable grade on my board, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he can't be for someone. I did have him just off of the board because I thought UDFA was the right area for him, but he brings that kind of mix of get it done downfield, but survive contact balance. You've heard that before in some draft picks that have come into Kansas City and been able to play some significant snaps. So now you have another option. And I think that those four guys in particular are going to provide a room that this team can rely on. Now, does that mean that it gets augmented at the running back spot? It may. I can't say that it's set in stone. You never know who's going to get cut in either the OTA process, certainly in training camp. I do think what we see being proven is there are guys that they trust, one being McKinnon, and guys that they know can do part of the role that they want. That makes perfect sense for why Clyde Edwards-Helaire will be part of this room, and I think a four-headed monster right now. Do have Jerry and Ely still hanging out there, which would be a possibility to come back. I don't know that he plays a huge factor. There could be a number of other signings to supplement what goes on in the running back room. But this allows Isaiah Pacheco to be the bell cow, to be the guy that is the first out the door. I think it will be supplemented, especially early in the season, more by CEH than by McKinnon. I think McKinnon will have a pretty easy go certainly in training camp, but in the first half of the regular season as well, because every year that McKinnon is around is another year that you got to be careful about what that age is doing to him. So I do feel that he's going to be a postseason type guy that you want healthy and ready to go. And so that means you start peppering him in November. If we don't see Jerick McKinnon much on the field in September and October, I think that's perfectly fine. I think that allows CEH to develop, get back in a groove a little bit, be the two punch to the starter in Pacheco, a complete reversal of last season. And I like that. Clearly, Clyde Edwards-Helaire did a good job catching the ball last year as well. And I do think that chemistry with Mahomes is hard to replace. So it makes sense in keeping him here. I like the fact that this allows variability in different ways that you can attack opposing defenses. And that's what it all comes down to in the end, that I want them to be able to attack. And I think they want to be able to attack. They'll be able to get a number of things done that not every team can. The running back room is that icing on the top. Obviously, a lot put into the wide receiver room this offseason, but it's going to pay off for them. The question is going to be who else can pay off, and those are the rookies. We're going to talk about them coming right up here, but I do got to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel, because right now the fast break is on in the NBA playoffs. New customers can get a no-sweat first bet right now for up to $1,000 in bonus bets. That's $1,000 in bonus bets on your account if your first bet doesn't win. All you got to do is sign up and get in the action. There's no better place to play in the playoffs than America's #1 sportsbook, and that is FanDuel. So go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. It's right over here on the screen, and place a no-sweat first bet when you sign up. You can earn up to $1,000 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. It's the official sportsbook betting partner of the NBA, the NFL, MLB, and everybody else I can think of. So check them out today. When I look at the depth chart, a lot to be made of where and when these particular rookies are going to play. Clearly, the draft class is going to have, the majority of our attention. But there's a couple of other guys here that we need to mention. We'll do that in the next segment. We're going to run down what the prognosis looks like for the rookie class. And it starts, as it did in the first round, with Felix anudike-uzomah. And I'm going to get to flowing on his name. Anudike-uzomah will come a little bit easier to me as we roll through the summer, folks. Felix is, I think, going to have a chance to be right in the rotation on third down immediately. What we heard from Brett Veach kind of hinted at the fact that Chris Jones, Derek Nottie will be starters. Charles Omenihu will start on the outside in base downs, in run downs. When that comes off and it's a pass rushing situation, they love Omenihu's length inside and his pass rush ability inside. That's what he did for the Niners quite well, and that makes a lot of sense to me. Now, you have George Karlaftis on the other edge spot. I think he stays there. You put a Omenihu next to him on passing downs. Now, all of a sudden, you can put that guard-tackle combo in some stress. I do think those guys will be able to run some stunts as well, and I do like to see those TE twists coming off at some of the opposing offensive lines. And that allows Felix to come in and play a little bit more of a designated pass rush, like a wide 9 type scenario on the side that has Chris Jones. That helps Chris. It widens out the tackle because he's going to have to attack in as much a 45 as a vertical set to try to get after Felix. Felix is best in college coming off of the wide 9, and I don't think that's going to change in the pros. What Felix isn't great at initially is going to be defending the run. Got to learn that part. Got to get coached up on that. So as the season begins, I think Felix can be outside on passing downs and contribute right away. I think it will come around to a well-rounded game as we move forward. Now, on the other side, I do think George Karlaftis has been working with Tamba Hali. I think he's working on handwork. He's doing some of the things that allow him to stay outside a little bit more. We saw George Karlaftis go inside last year. I thought that worked fine. Mike Dan has done the same thing. Excuse me. Mike Dana, George Karlaftis are going to be able to rotate and really play anywhere. And I think that's our new concept here, is that we're going to a little bit of everything. Now, Felix played inside and was able to hold his own. I don't want to see him do that in the pros. So I do think that they want to see him as a designated pass rush on the outside. BJ Thompson is a guy we'll talk about later that might be able to come in and spell him a little bit there. And when you get to Rasheee Rice, I think Rasheee Rice has an opportunity to be on the outside as a starter right away come week one. The question is going to be how he adapts to the offense. He clearly has some kind of rapport with Patrick Mahomes already. That goes a long way. He does have to get to the point where he can work with Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore and MVS. And so what does that tell you? I think Rasheed Rice can be the Z right now. Same as Kadarius Toney. The difference is I need to make sure that Kadarius can be the Z if Sky is going to be on the inside. If not, it's going to be Rasheed Rice on the outside and Kadarius Toney in at the slot. I think MVS is going to be your solid starter at the X pretty much most of the season. But as Rasheed Rice comes on, I do think he's going to get a good target share and be able to play a little bit of X as the season wears on as well. Again, you want to pepper in what the rookie gets so that he can make a contribution that actually helps you. And then what I think is going to be really important is from day one, the guy who might get the most snaps as a rookie in 2023 is Wanya Morris. Right now, he is going to be in a head-to-head battle with Lucas Niang, who we have not seen hardly head nor tail of in the last 12 months. The question is, how healthy is Lucas Niang? I don't know. No one outside of the organization knows. It's Lucas, it's probably Brett Yaris, and it's the Chiefs. So we're going to have to see that. I think what we're going to see right away is rotation in OTAs that are starting next week. Who, when, and where gets what time with the ones is going to be important. Something we're going to have to track all the way through week one. However, as time wears on, I have to think that the younger, more nimble athlete has the advantage. Because, unfortunately, while Lucas has been in the league a couple of years, he hasn't had the game reps to really fortify that. And so I think at the end of the day, it comes down to it's an advantage, but it's not the advantage it should be. So I think Wanya has the better feet. I do think that he has some things he has to work on, certainly balance-wise, being able to deliver power. There's some anchor issues there. I do think he and Lucas will be able to go back and forth. And in the end, whoever becomes the swing tackle puts Kansas City in a better position than they were last year in terms of their swing tackle. So it's a plus no matter what happens. But in the end, I do feel that it is Wanya Morris that was probably going to win out this job in 2023. And if so, he was likely to be the guy, much like Creed was, that is allowed to play the most snaps as a rookie and kind of lead that crew. If that's the way that it works out, I think we have to feel really, really good about it. And then we have to take a look at the remainder on defense and our UDFA class that has a couple of interesting players on. We're going to do that right after this. Now, coming back on day 3, the Chiefs were able to pick up some defensive talent, and it started with Shamari Connor. And Shamari's a guy, when I watched on film, I did have a lower grade than where the Chiefs took him. And to hear Brett Veach talk about it, maybe a significantly one, because evidently, according to Brett Veach today, both Wanya Morris and Shamari Connor had a very similar grade, meaning that if Wanya was not there when the Chiefs selected in the 3rd round, Shamari Connor could have been that pick up in the 3rd. Now, I had a mid-high-ish grade in the 5th on Shamari Connor because he does a little bit of everything. He can play free. He can play split safeties high. He can play a little bit of robber. He can come down and play a box safety. And probably my favorite, between the box safety and the nickel snaps that he got, the guy blitzes. He comes off the ball, and I like the way that he helps attack the quarterback. And that's something that we've seen Steve Spagnuolo do with L'Jarius Sneed for the last 3 years, and Shamari Connor is in position to take that role and run with it. I do like the concept that if they like him at the nickel, it lets L'Jarius play outside, where I think L'Jarius can travel with the opposing team's number 1 wide receiver and take him off the board. Now, L'Jarius allowed a fair completion percentage last year. Didn't allow a lot of yardage. So if you're worried about completions, maybe L'Jarius has to step up a little bit. I think depending on how this season goes, we could see L'Jarius Sneed get extended in Kansas City. I hope so. But right now, that doesn't seem to be at the top of the list for the Kansas City Chiefs because they have this giant contract to complete with Chris Jones. So I do feel like right now we're more likely to see L'Jarius play on his rookie contract than not in 2023. But if he can play outside, I think that helps him. And I think it helps the team. Shamari Connor is a guy that can help, particularly in the blitz packages, in taking some of that on. And then you get to B.J. Thompson. Now, B.J. Thompson is exactly what I've been asking for the last 3-4 seasons. He's a 3-4 speed rushing outside linebacker that isn't this typical Spags power edge. They've needed this for a while. They've needed the change of pace, a guy that can sprinkle in and be that Justin Houston type. Now, Justin came from a 3-4 and was able to put on the power and ended up playing with a lot of strength and power in a 4-man front. There's no reason B.J. Thompson can't do that either, and eventually could be playing a significant role in this rotation with Felix and George Karlaftis. I don't see a significant role there for him in 2023, but he is a guy that I think has the potential to grow into an explosive edge rusher, and that's what Joe Cullen wants. Joe Cullen and Steve Spagnuolo don't run the same concept, the same scenario, and the same scheme if they had to do it. But marrying them together to be a hybrid defense, I do love this concept of being able to throw a change of pace pass rusher in there, much like you do with a third down running back, and attack the passer with speed before anybody knows that you're coming. And I love the concept. I would even venture that in the future, we're going to see Chris Jones, Charles Omenihu inside, with one side being B.J. Thompson, the other side being Felix and George Karlaftis together, and let them all attack the quarterback. That's what I'm here for. On the defensive side, on day 4, the guy who might end up getting the most snaps for me is Keandre Coburn. Keandre has more pass rush than he lets on, or that most people are going to give him credit for. He is closer. If you're looking at last year's roster, he is closer to Colin Saunders than he is to Derek Nottie, who he will play behind. Derek Nottie will be the starter. Keandre Coburn will be, I think, right behind him. Byron Cowart, we'll see if he can get something done. And obviously, Turk Wharton and his recovery is going to be determining like how much Turk plays. Daniel Weiss is going to be out there as well. And so I think that that's part of the rotation. But Keandre Coburn is a guy that has more explosiveness to his game than he has just pure anchor. So I do want to see that come to fruition. And when you're looking size-wise, Colin Saunders was more explosive, but size-wise, I think the guys are right about in the same ballpark, 330, 335 at 6'2", 6'3". And I think that that's a good combination. Coburn certainly wants to play next to Chris Jones and soak up everything that he can. He certainly seems motivated, and I think that goes a long way. Then we get down to Nick Jones, who I think has some tenacity to him. I think he and Najee Johnson are going to be locked in a camp battle to see who can be that corner that makes it there on the end and is going to have to play special teams. But he's going to have some competition from UDFAs. And that one in particular is Reese Taylor, who I do like his game. I had him nearly as a draftable grade on my board. And I do think that he's going to put up a good fight. Also, probably the best UDFA that they brought in is Cam Jones. He is a linebacker that had a draftable grade on my board. He is someone who will push Jack Cochran for his roster spot. Christian Cole, look out. Is he going to push Leo Chanel or Drew Tranquil? No. But he could be that 5th, 6th linebacker area that the Chiefs really do need to shore up the special teams. Then we get into the guys that are just really intriguing. The first being Prince, generic Prince that we talked about earlier at the running back room. And then Nico Remigio, who is a returner in particular that I think could help this team in taking those duties on and keeping the wide receivers from having to deal with the returns. I do like his chances in camp, so keep an eye on him. And then it comes down to maybe my dark horse, but a guy that I do like a lot in Truman Jones from Harvard. You don't hear that very often, a Harvard player making an NFL roster, but I do think he has a chance. 6'3", 250 edge rusher, and a guy that I think has the leadership skills, certainly the acumen to learn the defense. It's going to be about, can he actually affect the passer enough to make a statement, beat out Malik Herring and Josh Kando? That's going to be the question. There are a number of edge rushers here on this team, depending on how you stack Mike Dana and where his position is. they're going to be pushing for that. There's going to be practice squad players that they have to stash in order to try to bring them along. Truman could end up one of those. The two offensive linemen that I like, maybe there's three. Hardy Anderson, App State, Quentin Barrow, Grand Valley State. I'll probably switch those as we go through the offseason. Both those guys, I think, have enough possibility that they could turn into those Allegretti backup roles. Nick Allegretti will be the primary backup right now for this season. Either Lucas Niang or Wanya Morris will be the swing tackle. Austin Ryder's job is up for competition. I think Jaren Kennard's job is up for competition. Protego Wanago's job is up for competition, and those rookies could push him. Long shot, Jerome Carvin, teammate with Trey Smith and Wanya Morris, has some background, but does have a little bit farther way to go. So that's what the rookie class looks like and how it may fit in this season. Matt Derrick's going to join me tomorrow. We're going to go over his impressions from what Brett Veach has had to say and where this particular beginning to rookie invite camp and then the beginning of OTAs is coming down. So join us tomorrow. Remember, we are 5 days a week, and we're going to have that as well as Chris will be back later in the week. He's just off today. As we take a look at how this wide receiver group could shake out. A lot of possibilities there. And I know the Ross and Ross brothers are still out there, and a lot of folks are looking at them as well. We're going to go head-to-head on what we think about the wide receiver group as a whole. So please join us this week. We very much appreciate you. Like, sub, and hit the bell on YouTube. And check out our other Locked On shows because there's a ton of them that you want to get in on and know what the opposition has been doing. So thanks for listening to us today. We'll be back with you tomorrow